Very few people who think they have Native American ancestry actually do, particularly when it's a great-great-grandmother, right? If you're immediately in a tribe, of course, but you don't need a DNA test for those. Ethnicity is really interesting, but it's also highly variable. And it's one of the things that's based on statistical analysis. And I think I do want to talk about this a bit because a lot of the DNA tests are based on statistical analysis. It's not a direct test, like the BRCA is a good example. If you get the full test from Myriad Genetics through your doctor, that is pretty certain. But if you just get what's called a SNP test from 23andMe, that's much more questionable. Similarly with the ethnicity testing, you will get an analysis back from the company, whether it's Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage, FTDNA. These are the main companies that do this work. They will give you an estimate of your ethnic background. And it could be, in my case, for example, I always thought it was Irish and Scottish, right? I mean, that's, so many of us are. Well, when I found out that I have a bit of French in there, that's kind of cool, right? That's interesting. But is that real? And that's where we're not really sure, particularly with those non-European ancestries. At the moment, virtually all of the databases are dominated by people of European ancestry, right? People in the US, Canada, Europe, they're the primary contributors. So the database has a lot of information on those people, those ancestries that date back to Europe. But when we start looking at people with African ancestry, Asian ancestry, and so on, the data is not quite as reliable because the numbers just aren't there. And there's a lot of intermixing, intermarriages that blend the DNA from these different groups. And crucially, what's most important is that what divides an Irish descendant from an African person is such a tiny fraction of our genome. I mean, all humans are 99.9% identical in their DNA base. So we're looking at one base in 1,000 potential difference between the two most diverse people on the planet. So we have to parse out that and then try to make an interpretation based on statistical frequencies. How often does this particular 1 in 1,000 base occur in these populations in Ireland as opposed to the Gold Coast? And there is no DNA that is unique to any ethnicity. So there's no marker that we can look at and say, okay, this person carries this particular DNA sequence, therefore they must be Irish and nothing else. Everybody overlaps all around the world. So it comes down to a statistical analysis, and so people are sometimes disappointed when they see their ethnic breakdown and they say, hey, I'm 2% Asian, where did that come from? Well, that could just be an anomaly in the statistical analysis. Or perhaps you do have some Asian way back when.